I would like to welcome the President of the Nigerian Society of Victoria, Mr. Fred Alale, for the welcome address.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the 56th Nigerian Independence Day celebration, an annual event marking the independence of Nigeria from British rule on the 1st October 1960. As many of you are aware, Nigeria has many challenges. But despite all these challenges, we should be proud of our heritage and showcase it. I got a few of these words from our ex-president, Dr. Razak Balogun, who shared this on the Independence Day on the 1st of October. But we should celebrate our strengths in the individual successes, in the greatness of many individuals that make up the Nigerian community, as exemplified here in Victoria, where we're the most educated group, with 20% of our community being doctors or holding a doctorate. We excel in academia, in industry and business. Just take a look at our community award recipients for this year in page 6 of your program of events. Just a few months ago, we celebrated our youngest doctorate holder, Juliana Ojediro, who is just 32. Juliana is around actually helping our work with me today. We have Ade Kassim, a winemaker and vineyard owner, who makes Vitis Botanica, a luxury non-alcoholic wine. We have many of our youth and children excelling at university. Just last week, Peggy Gusau informed me she was admitted to study law at Melbourne University after completing her first degree in politics and Spanish. I'm linking Peggy with Judge Josh Wilson, who we are privileged to have here today, and with whom the NSV already has a hugely successful mentoring arrangement for 3 African Australian youths, including the NSV Public Relations Officer Anu Toku and Sarah Nega of Ethiopian Heritage. Sarah has just been offered a position with the Department of Premier and Cabinet, following a reference from Judge Wilson. Sarah's father and mother, Abasalom Nega, will be here with us today. I'm also delighted that we're now moving into a sphere of political representation and have our own Mrs. Remi Yusuf. Mrs. Remi Yusuf, you can just stand up there for us. She's standing as councillor for Paul Council in Warragul. Please give her a round of applause. It is only when we celebrate our successes that we can find a path to changing our destiny for the better. Just last week, I had the privilege of being invited to join the first African Ministerial Working Group. I intend to use this platform to collaboratively drive tangible initiatives that will make a real difference in the lives of African Australians, especially in the area of sustainable job opportunities. NSV is also well represented in the African Australian Communities Leaders Forum, AACLF, a coalition of various African community organizations and interested individuals who are committed to liaising with government, key decision makers and other stakeholders constructively. I take this opportunity to thank our donors and sponsors who are listed in page 14 of our program of events, without whom this awesome event would not be possible. I'd like to especially acknowledge our top 10 donors, who between them alone contributed over $12,000 to this event. Do we have a list of our top 10 donors to come up? I'd like to thank Pastor Mrs. Bumi Antemi Ajayi. I'd like to thank World Remit. I'd like to thank Dr. and Mrs. A.G. and Rashika Ekianyawu. I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Azubuike and Ngozi Azubuike. I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Aliuf and Fatima Mahmoud. I'd like to thank Dr. and Mrs. Akinshola Abe Akimbi. I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Henry and Alison Ezenwa. I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Deji and Mupo Iyola. I'd like to thank Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Emmanuel and Vivian Undukwe. I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Ben Uchena and Kelechi Mwako. We thank you. In closing, We should continue to discuss, debate, and find solutions to the challenges and problems facing the Nigerian and wider African communities. We must always embrace and celebrate our successes, as this is the only way forward. It is only when we use our strengths to work together that we will conquer social ills and move our communities forward. Let us continue to showcase the best of Nigeria and Africa in the face of adversities and occasional media vilification. As the Nigerian Society of Victoria slogan says, we are better together. Thank you.